Hi everyone. So do you remember last week when I said I'd keep doing this as long as there were people willing to sit down to interview with me? Well, what I should have said is I keep doing this as long as there wasn't a shelter-in-place order by the governor. So we're going to take a little break for a while and hopefully return soon as this COVID-19 mess clears up. In the meantime, enjoy my last interview for a while with Emilio Rodriguez, the co-founder and artistic director of Black and Brown Theater. In this half, we talk about the importance of having an improvisational attitude in theater, the importance of theater that represents everyone, and doing theater in some unconventional spaces, as well as much, much more, so stay tuned.
We have some experiences where race is on the forefront of our mind, and sometimes we're just at a coffee shop hanging out with a friend, because I was so used to seeing casts where there was Black actors and Latino actors and Asian actors and Arab actors all on one stage at the same time. And we didn't know how many people would come because our first performance as a library was on a U of M game day, and we were performing at the Ann Arbor
So there was like
library.
Zero parking as
Hello,
well.
and welcome to Michigan Theater and Film Talk, the interview show dedicated to highlighting Michigan talent from all over the state. My name is Jeff Tamakis, and welcome. First, some housekeeping things. If you are on Facebook, you can go to my Facebook page, which is Michigan Michael Chekhov Classes N2C2, and like that page, and you'll be the first to be notified of videos just like this. Also, we are on YouTube, which is at The Inspired Actor, which I've just changed the name, and I think it covers what I do a little bit better. So go to at The Inspired Actor and like, subscribe, and share this video with everyone you know, have known, or will know for the rest of your life. Again, my name is Jeff Tamakis, and my guest today is Emilio Rodriguez.
Hi, thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. And you are the founder of Black and Brown Theater.
Yes.
That's
co-founder technically, but yeah, now current artistic director.
That's wonderful. How did you get started with Black and Brown Theater? What was your idea? What was your concept? I can't wait to hear about this.
Yeah, so it was just really a conversation between a friend and myself about how we could, or what was lacking, what we felt was lacking in Michigan theater, and what we could do about it. We're both very solution-oriented people, so after the second or third conversation about it, we said, well, we have to do something. We can't just have conversations about what the problem is. And that's when we decided to it really just started off with a showcase, and we just had an open audition for actors of color, and we did it at the Wright Museum. And then from there was more and more demand, and so it just sort of grew organically into a theater company.
That's fantastic.
Yes.
How are you doing? So for those of you who are watching this, you are probably in quarantine right now, and hopefully the end of the world has not occurred yet. But how are you doing, and how are you surviving through this COVID-19 stuff?
It's definitely scary, and I don't like being in isolation. I'm definitely, as most theater people, we like to be out and socializing, so it's hard to not have that. But it's definitely encouraging me to embrace technology and get more involved with technology and look at the ways that I can share art online and digitally in ways that I've been maybe afraid to do before.
Yeah, if anything positive can be taken from this, it's that. I recommend it. It's a great way to reach out to the community, but nothing is a substitute for live theater. But we have to do what we have to do.
Absolutely, and I think there's still ways to make those connections. It's just reframing it for us, because it's obviously not as magical as live theater, but there's still a way to connect with people, at least for now, until things get better.
Well, I mean, the bright side is that during the plague, Shakespeare wrote The Rape of Lucrece, which was his biggest moneymaker in his lifetime. It made him enough money so he could buy a coat of arms. So, there can be a positive out of this. So go out and write your Rape of Lucrece or whatever epic poem you want out there.
Me too. I'm hoping for that to happen
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll write the best play I've ever written. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, this must be an okay time for playwrights then, who wanna sit down and finally get cracking to write, right?
Yeah, especially those who have day jobs that are
Mm-hmm.
now, work from home or suspended or whatnot. Then I think now is a great time to take advantage of that time.
Yeah, yeah. So how did you get involved in theater to begin with? What is your origin story?
Oh, okay. So I was taking a education class. Both my parents are educators. My dad taught high school, my mom taught preschool. And I was actually a music major, but I was thinking about taking an education class as sort of like a fallback plan. And they had us do a mock debate. And I did not consider myself an actor at the time, but the teacher was, she said, well, you seem really comfortable acting. Can you take this class with my husband? And it was teaching Shakespeare adaptations to high school students. So we taught high school students how to read the Shakespearean plays and then adapt them into their own stories.
That's cool.
Yeah, I had no idea what I was doing at the time because I didn't know Shakespeare. I didn't pay
Well, there's
attention
only one way to
Shakespeare.
learn, right?
Yeah, I think it was the best master
Yeah.
class because it was like you have to be knowledgeable enough about this work to then teach it to someone else. And I feel like when I read it in high school, there was no purpose behind it, or I didn't connect with the purpose behind it.
Mhm.
And then I was an actor, so I didn't have any connection to bring it to life. But this gave a purpose to it, and then that's when I started the theater path.
Okay, so you how long did you do that? How long were you teaching?
That was one semester,
Uh-huh.
and then from there I then started taking acting classes, and then improv, and then I fully switched into a theater major at UC Irvine.
So you were are you from California?
I am original. Well, I'm sort of from all over because my dad was in the Army.
Oh, okay. So
I
you
remember
you happened to be in California at the time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's when but the plan was to be a contemporary jazz songwriter until I learned that that's not really a career. Nobody's singing contemporary jazz songs. So it's not as in demand as the standards and doing other genres of music. So eventually the switch happened to theater when I fell in love with it, but it all started with that class.
Yeah. So did you continue and get your degree in theater or?
Yes. So I got my degree in theater, and then that's when I moved out to Detroit.
Okay, so let's stop right here because you're in UC Irvine, which is how close to LA is UC Irvine?
It's the halfway point from LA to San Diego.
Okay, so.
Yeah. About an hour.
About an hour. So and everything is an hour away in LA, from what I understand, right?
Yeah. So it's maybe a little more.
So and then you're here. So what brought you to Michigan and Detroit?
So I wanted to teach for America, and I had that plan. Again, both my parents were educators, so it felt like something that I was passionate about, but then I could also take some time to refocus and think about exactly what I wanted to do. And then I was assigned high school, which was not my original plan. I actually wanted to work with younger students because I felt it was an easier way to incorporate theater and art and music into the classroom every day.
Okay.
But then I got high school. And it was.
How did you get high school? Was it like the lottery or something like that? Or
they just assign you, so you can either preference a region or a subject matter. I preferenced the subject matter and got neither of those. So I ended up teaching high school and taught English, but then. The day before school started, the drama teacher quit, and they asked if I could teach 3 drama classes. So I taught 3 drama classes and 3 English classes. So it was like fate. It was meant to be, and yeah.
Wow. So are you continuing to do that now, or?
Now I actually teach freelance, so I don't do a full-time teaching gig, but I teach. It's great because I say that I get to teach everything from kindergarten to senior citizens.
Okay.
I teach some college classes. I teach a couple high school classes.
Hi, this is Jeff from M2C2. Being stuck inside during a pandemic can be a real drag.
especially if you're an actor looking to improve their craft. And I would like to help by offering virtual classes online. If you would like to learn from someone with over 35 years of theatrical experience, go to www.michigancheckoff.com. Private sessions start at $25, so I'll see you guys later.
How does one get you as a teacher?
Oh, yeah. So I work for, or contract for a couple organizations. Living Arts is one of them, Matrix Theater Company. Now also Black and Brown does its own contracting.
Okay.
And then some people just know me personally and say, can you do this? And then some things are grants that Black and Brown gets to teach classes.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So combination of many things, wearing many hats.
And you're reaching out to the entire Wayne County, or just specifically Detroit, or?
It's a lot of focus on Detroit.
Okay.
However, we did get some grants from the Ann Arbor Area Community Foundation, so we're reaching out into IPSI now and just expanding where we can.
Oh, wow, that's great. So let's go to Black and Brown. What projects have you done with Black and Brown Theater?
We started off with a showcase, but then it's now expanded.
So what was the showcase like?
Yeah, the showcase was 6 10-minute plays by mostly local writers. We did have a couple out-of-town writers. And then they performed those scenes, and we specifically chose a mix of scenes, some things that were pertinent to experiences of people of color, and some things that were just stories that maybe weren't even intended for actors of color, so that we could show a variety. And that's sort of been what we've been trying to continue throughout our seasons is how do we show a variety? Some things that are written deliberately for people of color and showcase experiences that we have, and then some things that maybe didn't have us in mind. But that showcase that we are fully human. We have some experiences where race is on the forefront of our mind, and sometimes we're just at a coffee shop hanging out with a friend. Not now, but before.
Back when coffee shops were a thing.
Yes. Exactly. And now it's expanded into more plays. That was something we were really responsive to our actors, and that was something they said they wanted to do full-length plays. They wanted to, move out of the showcase format. And then it also expanded because then we had a lot of company members who had families and had kids, or had nieces or nephews, and so that expanded into doing some work for Theater for Young Audiences, or as we call Theater for Families.
Okay.
And I call it that because I'm always reminded that it is impossible for a 5-year-old to see a show by themselves. So there will always be an adult in the room. Even when we're at a school, there's a teacher, an administrator, or someone else in the room. So it sort of reframes the way that we create that work, so that there is fun costumes and movement and gags that the kids can enjoy, but there's also a story behind it that adults can pick up on.
Yeah, you don't want the adults to be like, oh my gosh, like Barney or something like that,
That would be hard to say. That would be hard for us.
Yeah. So that's great. So you have shows for adults and shows for families.
Yes.
And what kind of projects have you done? I mean, what specific projects have you been doing?
So it's been a mix of some original work and then some classics. We, as far as classics, we did an adaptation of Alice in Wonderland that we actually made bilingual. We hired a translator for that. We did a performance of Scarlet Letter in conjunction with the high school English classroom. So they were reading the Scarlet Letter, the book, and then we adapted it into a play. And then we have done some original plays by local writers. We've done some readings by local writers. And then our current 2 projects coming up, we have an adaptation of Beauty and the Beast called Beast of the Town.
Okay.
It's part of our Once Upon a Rhyme series, so it's all told in rhyming couplets to keep it engaging. But then it also, we like to say that it's timeless tales with a timely twist. So for that one, we're taking this idea of Beauty and the Beast. How do you have this princess and this beast? But then how do you reframe what we've been told always is that the beast should transform into something more human or more beautiful, conventionally beautiful. But how can we reframe that to address prejudice and other issues? And rather than having the beast transform, how can he be accepted the way he is rather than transform.
Having to change.
Yeah. Especially if it's just a physical change. Personality change, great, but physical change.
That's really interesting. I never thought of it in those terms before, but that would be a really cool thing to see.
Yeah, thanks. So we're excited about that. It is a little bit delayed with everything going on because we were supposed to.
Well, everything is up in the air right now, right? So, I mean, all we can talk about in the future is dreams and hopes for the future, and assume that everything's going to be pushed back a month.
Hopefully just a month. But if it's more than a month, we've been thinking about how we can combine theater and also create opportunities for actors in other mediums. So one thing we've been playing with the idea is, could it be a podcast, or could it be a video, like a YouTube video? And then if it is with the intention of being presented for families and engaging kids, can it be made a cartoon? Is my dream. If it can't be a play, then the next transition that would make sense to me would be a cartoon. So that would just be a matter of finding an illustrator and all of that. But
you hear that, illustrators? All right.
Yes. Illustrator, let me know. But if people have more free time now, and then it would be a really cool medium for actors to explore voiceover and creating characters that just resonate through their voice. So.
Yeah. There's more and more podcasts are coming up locally with stories and things like that. I noticed there's one out of is it Canton or Plymouth? I think it might be Plymouth, but it's a spooky one. And I'm going to put the name of it right here and check it out, because I think it's very interesting. But it's exciting that you're thinking in those terms and already starting to adapt. You strike me as a person who is nimble on their feet and really wants to try a bunch of different things. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, I mean, I believe in the whole, what is the phrase, throwing spaghetti and seeing what sticks.
Well, you wanted to be a jazz musician, so I mean that pretty much encompasses your philosophy, isn't it?
Right, it's all improvisation, and so I think you're right. I think it's a weird time to be in now, but for so many creatives, it's also like we know how to thrive under pressure. We know how to adapt quickly.
Think like a jazz musician. I think that is the lesson to be learned from all of this fun that we're having. Do you have a stock of actors that you pull from? Do you have an ensemble? Do you have a company? How does that work?
So we do have some actors who consistently work with us, and but we also have a database of over 100 headshots and resumes from actors of color, and we realize that we can't cast all of them, so we also share it with theater companies all over Michigan and film companies, all sorts of ways that actors can get work. So that's sort of our main focus. But and then as far as our shows, we try and bring in new people in every show. A lot of times our bigger roles may go to company members just because we've developed a relationship with them and a trust with them, but we always try and bring in new people with every show that we do.
Okay, so tell me about this aspect that of database that you have. Why start it? Why even have it?
It was actually a suggestion from someone who came to our showcase, and they said, there's a few actors that I'm interested in. Can I have their contact information? And then we decided that if we were just going to send the headshot and resume digitally, why not collect everyone's and just have one place that they can go to? So it started with just the 16 actors from the showcase. And then as we started doing more shows, we'd add in other actors. And then we decided, why limit it to just people who work with us? And there may be people we wouldn't even discover if it's not open to everyone. So then we made it open to all actors of color in the Southeast Michigan area. And they started sending headshots and resumes, and then it just grew and grew and grew. It's actually past 100, but I haven't given a count.
So when you say actors of color, how do you define that?
We allow actors to self-identify if they identify as a person of color, but some suggestions that we give would be if they identify as Black or African American, multiracial, Latino, Arab American, or Asian American.
Okay.
But it is self-identify, so if someone felt there was something else or an identity that was not brought up, we encourage them to identify that way.
If let's say an actor of color wants to be a part of your database, how would they go about doing that?
They would just email blackandbrowntheater@gmail.com. Oh, that's a good term. Blackandbrowntheater@gmail.com. And they would send their headshot and resume digitally. And it needs to be something that we can open, though, because sometimes people send us stuff that we can't open or it's not viewable. So just make sure it's viewable so that everyone can open it.
I find the easiest way to do that is to turn it into a PDF. Yes. Yeah, if you turn even a JPEG into a PDF, it's easily transferable between computers and everyone can read it, right?
Yes, that's a great suggestion.
Okay, good. Yeah. I know a little bit of IT. I'm learning a lot doing this. So let's get serious here. What do you think this community, you started this as a need that you saw in a conversation that you had. How did that conversation go? What were some of the things being discussed in that conversation? If I can ask?
Yeah. So, coming from California, I was just so used to seeing plays that were so many different identities were represented at one time on one stage. And so when I was seeing shows where there was all one identity, even if it was like an all Latino cast, I wasn't familiar with that because I was so used to seeing casts where there was Black actors and Latino actors and Asian actors and Arab actors all on one stage at the same time, and that was normal to me. So when I came here and I saw, an entire cast of one race, or maybe it was just like a cast that was half Black and half white, it was foreign to me. I couldn't understand that. And so as I was talking to this friend about it, we just got into conversations, and she was doing a lot of traveling and seeing other theater productions all over the country, and was saying, yeah, this is what we have is not normal.
What we have here in Michigan is not normal, even though we have a huge population, a diverse population of people.
And I think part of it is the way that the cities are segregated, right? Like we do have Southwest Detroit, which is predominantly at 70% Latino. And then we have cities that have very visible Arab American populations like Dearborn and Hamtramck. And then the city of Detroit, of course, being over 80% Black. But because they're separated and theaters are often in one spot, then they might adjust to whatever their population is. And instead of thinking about what is more of a representation of Southeast Michigan at large. And that's what we wanted to do. And that's one of the reasons why we haven't settled into a home base yet, because we love performing in so many different areas and bringing actors of different ethnicities to different communities so that each community gets to a window and a mirror. A window being they see someone who has a different experience from them, and a mirror of seeing someone who has the same experience as them.
What places have you performed with your group?
Oh man, we have
buildings.
We've been at the Wright Museum a few times. We've been at Matrix Theater a few times, and we're going to be back at Matrix Theater this spring, and hopefully if everything clears up. We have also performed in Toledo. We've performed in Toronto. We've performed in Ann Arbor a few times at different libraries, and Ypsilanti at different libraries. We'll be performing at a Ferndale library. And we also used to perform at this venue called Spread Art, which was like a artist hub for all different types of art. So yeah, it's been about moving to a bunch of different places and being flexible.
Do you find here? This is what I found is that there's a dearth of good performance spaces to take your theater company to around southeastern Michigan.
Absolutely. I think there are so many wonderful theaters, and I encourage theaters to use instead of create. I don't think we need that many more people creating a separate brand new physical space. I love the ideas of companies, and I think the more that theater companies theater spaces can share their space and have multiple companies occupy the space, I think brings in bigger audience, creates more opportunities, makes sure that the space is always being utilized rather than having all of these dark days. But then I also encourage theater artists to think outside of a traditional venue. I think that's been one of the most rewarding experiences for us, was like actually performing in a library.
What was that like?
It was so we walked in and we were like, this is a different space for us. This isn't what we traditionally see as a theater
So
space.
did you perform between AAB and AC ABC or
Pretty much, yeah. It was a meeting room.
Okay.
And it was a larger meeting room. But it was like what do we call this? Horizontally wide, vertically narrow.
It depends on your point of view, I think.
So it
was narrow.
Yes. As far as going up and down stage, as far as going stage left and stage right, you had plenty of room.
Okay.
So that was a little bit of an adjustment for us. And we didn't know how many people would come because our first performance as a library was on a U of M game day, and we were performing at the Ann Arbor.
So there was like
library.
Zero parking, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and we were actually at the Westgate branch. So it was there is a shopping center, so there was a little bit of parking there.
Did you know that going in? Did you think about it? You're
no, I didn't watch football. I didn't know it was a game day.
Oh, we're theater people.
And then I didn't know until we got there that the library was under construction, so you couldn't even see the sign that said where the library was.
Oh no.
So yeah, we were just like, oh my gosh, we're done. And then someone had texted me, you know it's game day, right? And I was like, oh no. This was a terrible idea. And so we were setting up, and 3 people came really early, and we were just like, all right, well, we have an audience of 3. And then I was setting up some crafts just in the event that anyone would come. And then all of a sudden, one of the actors comes to me and is like, move the table back. We need more room. And then I looked up, and then by the time the performance started, we had 128 people.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And it was people who had never heard of us. Most of the people had never heard of us, and a lot of the people had never been to a theater because.
What did you do? How did you advertise that?
We didn't. That's the crazy thing.
You didn't advertise? So how did these people know? I smell theater in the air. It is Ann Arbor, so I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, and I think the library did a great job of advertising. And we did email some schools.
Okay.
To let them know. So hopefully, I'm assuming the schools must have shared the word with the students. But yeah, we didn't know if that would be effective to like do on social media or whatnot. So yeah, I think it was the library and the schools that made that happen. But that was so special to us because a lot of parents came up to us and said they haven't seen theater because having kids, there's not as many choices of things that you can see, and then sometimes with theater being so expensive, it's like, do I want to take the risk? What if my kid has a fit that day or is restless, and then we can't go, and then we spend all this money on tickets? So I think that was one of the most rewarding experiences that we've had to reach a new audience and to get people to think of theater in different ways. And we didn't realize we were actually, someone talked to us afterwards. They had a child who was on the spectrum. And they were explaining to us that's one of the great things about not doing a space that has like all the bright lights and light changes, because it allows us to be more sensory friendly for children who are on the spectrum. And we also actually didn't use sound cues. We hired a flute player to play all of the sound cues, and that was another thing that they stated.
That sounds like it would be really cute.
Yeah, it was so much fun, and it also was like it helped the transitions flow and made it more engaging, and also another thing we learned from that experience is that it's much better for sensory friendly too, because then there's not a bunch of random sounds coming, and then children can track where the sound is coming from, so they're not saying, where's that sound coming from, in the way that maybe speakers would.
Have you taken those lessons into your future productions?
Yes, we're definitely continuing that for all of our Theater for Family shows. We've decided, even if we are in a traditional theater space, to just either not use lights or very limited up and down lights. And then we've also continued the musician idea, because it's been really fun and it gives a different twist. And I was listening to a Tyra Banks podcast, and one thing she was saying is the advice she always gives people is different is better than better. So instead of worrying about how do we make our show the best TYA show or the best theater for young audiences show, how do we make it different, and what are we offering that's different for people? So how do we have actors of color playing on roles that they've never played before, not using lights, having a live musician, all of these things, making it accessible, doing it in the libraries, all of these ways that we can make our show different from the other things that are being offered.
That concludes the first half of my interview with Emilio Rodriguez. Stay tuned in a couple of days for the next half.